All right, welcome everybody to today's podcast on the Seven Figures Club. We've got an amazing guest for you guys. I'm extremely excited, and I want to welcome to the show Shaqir Hussyin, who is one of the top online marketing entrepreneurs, not in the country, not in the UK where he lives, but in the world. He's known as the global online backpacker. He's the founder and CEO of wealthacademy.com and funnels.com. Can you believe that? Funnels.com. That's a very valuable site. His nickname is the Backpack Millionaire. He's invested over $350,000 into his own education and training since 2009. Over 500,000. I think it's pretty close to 1 million subscribers and members have joined his Online Profits Daily newsletter. He and his team have hosted over 150 live events all over the world. He's been featured everywhere from Forbes, Digital Trendsetter, Home Business Connection, and so many different websites. He also is running an 8-figures business, soon to be 9 figures. I believe it's 3 8-figure businesses before the age of 30 using high-ticket sales, offers, and sales funnels. Guys, I'm excited. Welcome to the show, Shaqir. There are over 32 million businesses in the US, and over 90% of them will never break 7 figures in annual sales. So how do we as entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs break into that 7 figures club? This podcast will relentlessly share the secrets, strategies, and tactics I've used to create 3 multi-7 figures businesses and bring in even more successful entrepreneurs than me to share their inspirational stories and tactics to success. You can create your dream business and life right now. So buckle up and let's go.
Hey, I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super pumped to be here.
Perfect. Well, real quick, tell us a little bit about your background. When you were growing up as a kid and going to school and high school, what was Shaqir like, and what were kind of your dreams, and is this what you kind of envisioned happening when you were a kid? What were your beginnings like?
I don't think this was actually my dream. Was to become a plumber and an electrician. And I thought if I had those 2 skills, which most people didn't have, I could probably make 50 to 100 grand a year. But growing up, I guess I was the typical kid, or maybe not. I was very I found it very hard to focus during school and college and even in university. And I would always find myself, even when I was at the age of like 15 years old, find myself learning about eBay and selling stuff on eBay. And that was actually one of my first ever, business hustles. I remember staying up until like 3 a.m., learning about eBay, signing up for PayPal, hitting that confirm button that said, yes, I am 18 years old, and wondering and worrying, is anyone going to ever find out? I'm not 18, but I need to make money. And that was the start of my entrepreneurial journey, so over the last 15, 16 years, it's been an absolute, it's literally been the best journey of my life for myself anyway. And through that, it's given me so many challenges that it's forced me and developed me into being a better character, a better human being. And I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in personal development, hanged out with Tony Robbins and all of these guys from Richard Branson, billionaires and whatnot. And what I find is that entrepreneurship is one of those personal development superchargers. It's just like when you get married. I've heard people say when they have kids, it's like, no amount of how to have more patience books will sort you out when you have kids. Now, I don't have kids yet, but I'm like, I get it. Like, I have to develop myself consistently. And so, that's kind of the big thing that I've seen is I'm chasing a better version of myself all the time.
You know what? That is so well said. And as a father of 5 kids, I can tell you that there's a lot of personal development that goes on and a lot of patience as you go down that road. And you talked about marriage. So what are some of the values and principles that you believe have helped you be so successful and be such a great leader to those who are trying to build online businesses? I know you've got thousands of students, maybe tens of thousands, who have been able to build their dream life because they learned from you. What are some of the values and principles that you kind of teach them that you think has made them successful, like you have been?
I appreciate that. So firstly, from a personal perspective, I'm a Muslim, so I pray 5 times a day. I follow Islam. I'm like religious in terms of like, praying 5 times a day, trying to be a better Muslim every day. And because for me, at the end of the day, this world is just a little path. It's just a little journey to get to the next journey. So like, I remind myself, this is not my world. Like I'm not just working for this world. I'm working for my afterlife. And so like, that's from a personal perspective. So everything that I do, I make sure, hey, how can I be ethical? How can I be kind? How can I, give the person a fair deal or even a greater deal where I'm getting the short end of the stick and I'm leaving the customer and the client way better off, delivering 10, 100, 1,000 times the value that whatever they pay for. So those are some of my personal perspectives and my personal values in terms of, business values and business principles. Some of the things that I've developed. Well, I'll give you a handful and I can actually talk about this because we do entire seminars on these topics, right? So one of them is frictionless thinking. Right now, let me share this with you because frictionless thinking is all about, when you are trying to do an activity, a task, a project, sometimes you're pulled in 10 different directions. And what happens is, a lot of the times you have all sorts of internal friction, and some of this internal friction could be as simple as you spend way too much time deciding what to eat or what to wear. And so for me, and over the last 10 years, I've developed this habit of I just wear black V-neck t-shirts. Sometimes they're just plain black V-neck t-shirts. Sometimes they're Hugo Boss. Sometimes they're my own brand. Sometimes they're cheap $10, $20 t-shirts. But I do not want to spend any time thinking about what do I need to wear, right? Because it's just an extra decision. Or even stuff like when it comes to eating, I just want to be able to eat the same thing over and over again, or just have food ready. Because for me, these things, I don't want to waste any time. Like I don't like driving because I feel like I could read a book, I could meditate, I can get on phone calls. So I have a general rule, which is, if I'm going to my parents, I'm driving my wife around, I drive. But other than that, we got to take an Uber. I got to get someone to drive me. So I have set up a specific rules like that. And when people ask me, what are your personal values and personal principles? I think everyone needs to develop their own, right? So for me, I believe in you got to forgive real fast. And sometimes I talk to people and they're like, I'm never going to forgive this person. And I'm like, I learned early on, when you can forgive yourself and you can forgive others, you release the prisoner from within you. One of the things you said is how I've been able to generate $30 million before 30, but maybe you and your listeners don't know. Also, I've had $1.2 million cash stolen from me. I've invested in things where, it went to zero. It didn't just crash and burn, it went to zero. I had staff members and employees steal from me, people that literally lived in my house that I took care of. When I bought them a new laptop because they couldn't have a laptop and I wanted to save their face, they ended up stealing from me. So it's like these experiences, I can have bitter taste, or I could just forgive and move on and just let go. And it's not just on other people, even for myself. So I don't let those things kind of hold me back. And if I do, I have that little awareness where I can say, hey, you need to snap yourself out. For example, I'll give you, I coach 7-figure entrepreneurs to scale to 8 figures, right? When people are stuck at the $250K to $3 million a year mark, and they want to break past, they want to get to, $500K a month, $1 million a month, 8 figures. They want to make their first 8 figures. A lot of the times, they come in and they are micromanaging everything. They are trying to do everything themselves. They've been burnt once or twice and they don't want to let go. Now they've become control freaks. But when you become a control freak, you're operating from a place of scarcity and lack versus abundance, and versus going out there doing your genius work, what you could and should and must be doing. You're focused on, saving money, cutting expenses, doing all this low leverage negative stuff versus focusing on the 1, 2, 3 things that really move the needle. So I am very aware of this in myself. And when I coach high-end clients, right? Clients come in, they pay me a bunch of money, I coach them, or even when I help them with their funnels, I realize, hey, you know what? And this is, again, another one of my own principles is always be the student, right? like you got to always be the student. If you come in and you think you're the smartest in the room, it's like, you've already lost. On my bio, you said I spent 350K. It's now over $600,000 that I've spent in masterminds, coaches, consultants, seminars. If someone can show me a better way, a faster way, an easier way, I'm ready to cut a check, 25K, 50K, 60K, like that. These are habits that I developed. And one of the reasons why I developed it is because about 10 years ago, I got introduced to, internet marketing, online marketing. And I remember all of the people around me struggling so bad. And they wanted to, chip in and buy courses, or they didn't want to invest in themselves. And I remember I had paid $20,000 to this mentor, money that I didn't even have. I borrowed it from other places. And just from some of the insights that he was able to share with me, I went and did 6 figures that year. And then I did multiple 6 figures. And in my third year of online marketing, I did $1.2 million in a year. It changed my life forever because I was a kid growing up from East London. I mean, 100 grand a year was a lot of money to me, right? $10 million now doesn't seem like a lot even today. I mean, it's a nice chunk, but back then, if someone said you can make 100 grand a year, I'd be like, man, that's rich. So I come from, a real different background to all of this. And I guess, that would be a principle. Another principle is that everything that I do, I aim to do with speed and urgency. I think way too many times, and I'm not pointing anyone out here, I'm just saying in general, okay, we are spoiled, right? We are spoiled. My dad used to say to me, son, anyone can come to this country. He's from, my parents are from Bangladesh. And when he came from Bangladesh, he came to this country with absolutely nothing. As an immigrant, used to get bullied in school, used to get beaten up, and all of that. And he worked himself up and he became somewhat successful. And he'd always tell me, from a young age, son, like, you live in this country, that in itself is the success. You get it? He used to say, because you live and you are born in this country, you've got the edge. Now you need to go and make it, because anyone can, and you just need to focus for 10, 15 years. And I used to think to myself, Dad, 10, 15 years sounds like a long time. And he's saying it from his frame of reference, but he didn't have any mentors, right? He got punched in the face over and over again. He had people steal from him. He had his friends and family betray him and all of this stuff. And I was like, but I've got these guys and these mentors and these business mentors, and I could go and learn from these guys. And I started learning and figuring out, hey, if I I can earn my way, which usually takes years and decades, or I can just pay my way. And so for me, that's just a mantra that I have, because if I can pay to remove an obstacle, any levels of stress, then I don't have that problem anymore. So I'd say those are a few key principles that I have and I try to live by.
Absolutely. So you talked about delivering way more value than what people are paying for. You're very curious. You're always learning. You talked about frictionless decisions, which makes our life easier. And that's something that Steve Jobs talked about and Mark Zuckerberg, where they eliminate, all right, I don't have to worry about what I'm going to eat. I don't have to worry about what I'm going to dress. And by keeping those simple things, now you can use your genius energy to do the things that God made you and put you here to do. And then you've got this bigger purpose, understanding that, there is more than just this mortal life. And that gives you greater purpose to make decisions that are long-term decisions and not maybe short-sighted decisions that a lot of people might make mistakes in making. So I think that's another really great value and principle that you shared with us. And you talked about overcoming a lot of adversity. Tell us a little bit more about one of those big adversity challenges, especially at the beginning when you were trying to build that first 7 figures online business. What was one of the big challenges that you had to overcome, and how did you do it?
Well, gosh, that seems like a lifetime ago. I'll tell you after 7 figures, right?
Perfect. Wherever it was in the journey, there was a big challenge, a big adversity. How did you get over that wall?
Yeah. So what had to happen was on the path to making my first $10 million, which I was around 26 years old at the time. I made my first $1 million. I call up my dad and I'm like, Dad, I made it. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, Dad, I'm a millionaire. I've got $1 million. Like I did $1.2 million that year. And he's a brown Asian man. So Asian dads, typical. He says, son, don't tell no one. And I was like, and then he said to me, son, he said something along the lines of, son, I just need you to know you got lucky. You ain't going to do it again. So you just keep that money. And I was like, Dad, no, I just followed this system. And so my second $1 million was really just trying to prove to myself and to my dad that I can do it second time. But the third time I did it, and I was like, okay, I'm on to something. And what had happened was, and this is a little bit, different than what most people go through. And a lot of people, they won't really admit this, but this happened to me. And it happens to a lot of people, especially when you make 7 figures or multiple 7 figures. You start thinking, everything I touch turns to gold. Mm-hmm. And so I'm, 26 years old. I've saved up probably about $3 million ish cash. And I'm like on top of the world. And then I learn about something called angel investing. And I had absolutely no idea what the heck that was, except my frame of reference was, obviously, I'm very successful in internet marketing. And, I had my dad, I had a few people tell me, stay away from this, lose your money. Yeah. And I was like,